Okay, business calculus students, before I get into problems and Mathematica and homework and all that good stuff, let me make this very clear, okay? I am not granting anyone in the class any extensions. You are responsible for the due dates. You are responsible for getting quizzes, tests, and of course homework done on time. And you are responsible for looking at your Pearson course shell content on a daily basis. This is your responsibility. I'm not granting extensions to anyone. I have been very fair and very generous about extensions. You are responsible for getting the work done on time, plain and simple. Okay? All right, let's take a look at your test. I don't think that we're going to have time to do every single problem here, but let's do a random sample of some of the test problems. Hopefully this will give you a little more confidence about your test. Okay, so let's take a look at the first problem. In parts A to C, find the indicated quantity for y is equal to f of x is equal to 4 minus x squared. Let's use Mathematica for this to make the process go a little bit faster, okay? So I have f of x is equal to 4 minus x squared. Shift enter. And then let's do the first one, part A. F of 2 minus f of 1. I'm going to highlight it, control divide by 2 minus 1, shift enter. And that's going to be negative 3. Okay, and then let's do f of 1 plus h minus f of 1, and this of course is a way of approximating the derivative at x is equal to 1. Highlight this, control divide by h. It's really 1 plus 1 plus h minus 1, but of course 1 minus 1 is 0, so you're left with h, right? Okay, shift enter. So that's really just, I don't know if we can simplify that. Can we simplify that? Okay, yes, we can simplify that. That's going to be negative 2 minus h. And then finally, we want to know the limit as h goes to 0. What is the limit of this entire expression? Well, we can see the answer is going to be negative 2 because when h goes to 0, then you have negative 2 minus 0, which is negative 2. But let's see if the computer agrees with us. Oh, let me copy this and paste it. H goes to 0. Shift enter. And of course the answer is negative 2. Let's see what Pearson says. Okay, your input is correct. Score 100% on this question. Okay. Let's go to the next question. Find the indicated quantities for f of x is equal to 2x squared. So this time, why don't we try to do this one by hand? Instead of relying, on Mathematica, okay? So it says here f of x is equal to 2x squared. What is the slope of the secant line through the points 1 f of 1 and 1 plus h, f of 1 plus h, where h is not equal to 0? Okay, so let's see what that's going to be. Let me turn on my pen. So I have f of x f of x is equal to 2x squared. Okay? So when x is equal to 1, when x is equal to 1, we're going to have f of x, or f of 1 actually. I should say well, we can say f of x, but x is equal to 1. This is going to be 2 times 1 squared, 2 times 1 squared, and 2 times 1, of course, is simply 2. And here we have x is equal to 1 plus h. And what is f of 1 plus h? 1, here, let me write this out. 1 plus h. And that's equal to 2 multiplied by 1 plus h squared. And everyone should remember algebra. That's going to be 2 multiplied by 1 plus 2h plus h squared. Okay, that's supposed to be a parenthesis. It didn't turn out too well. Okay, so this is going to expand. This is going to expand to 2 plus 4h plus 2h squared. Okay, so that was, that was a little bit of work, but here's what we have. So far we have x is equal to 1, and when x is equal to 1, y is equal to 2. Okay, and when x is equal to 1 plus h, then we have y is equal to 2h squared plus 4h plus 2. Here, that looks like an n. That's supposed to be an h. Okay, so how do we find the actual slope? Okay, let me write this down on a piece of paper because otherwise I'm going to forget it. I need to erase some of this. So just give me a moment to write this down. Okay, so when x is equal to 1, when x is equal to 1, y is equal to 2. When x is equal to 1 plus h, y is equal to 2h squared plus 4h plus 2. I needed to write that down because I am going to erase this in just a moment. Okay, there we go. Let me minimize this for right now, and let me use a terminal. And that'll be my background. Okay, so what we have here to find the slope, we're going to have 2h squared plus 4h plus 2 minus 2, and that's going to be divided by 1 plus h minus 1. And what is that equal to? Now look at what's going to happen. 2 minus 2 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. So you're left with 2 times h squared plus 4h divided by h. So what does that equal? That's going to equal 2h plus 4. And of course, if we take the limit as h goes to 0, we can see that we have 2 times 0 plus 4, which of course is equal to 4. Okay? So the answer to the first part is going to be simply 2h plus 4, but of course the limit is really going to be 4. The limit as h goes to 0 is going to be 4. All right? Okay, so the slope, okay, so part A is going to be that's going to be 2h plus 4. The slope of the graph at 1 f of 1 is equal to 4. So the answer to part A is simply the slope of the secant line through the points 1 f of 1 and 1 plus h f of 1 plus h, where h is not equal to 0, is 2h plus 4. The slope of the graph at 1 f of 1 is going to be 4. And the equation of the tangent line at 1 f of 1 is, well, again, let's try to do this one by hand. Okay, so we're looking for y is equal to mx plus b. mx plus b. So we already know that x is equal to 1, y is equal to 2, and we know that the slope m is equal to 4. So what do we have? We have 2 is equal to 4 times 1, which is simply 4, plus b, so obviously this has to be negative 2. 4 plus negative 2 is 2. Okay, so that means that the slope of the equation of the tangent line at 1 f of 1 has to be 4x minus 2. Is this correct? Your input is correct. Score 100%. Okay. Let me erase that. Now, you have a lot of these questions. Oh, hold on one second. You have a lot of these questions. So I think number 3 is basically the same. Well, this is basically a story problem, but it really requires you to simply understand, the equation of a line, the equation of a tangent line, etc., etc. Let me see what question Oh, I have to answer. Okay, hold on one second. It won't let me move on to the next question unless I answer this question. Um, okay, so let's answer this question before moving on. Okay. Question number 3. 2 hours after the start of a 100-kilometer bicycle race, a cyclist passes the 66-kilometer mark while riding at a velocity of 36 kilometers per hour. Complete parts A through C below. Find the cyclist's average velocity during the first 2 hours of the race. That's okay. So basically, he's been traveling for 2 hours. He's been traveling for 2 hours. And he started, of course, at 0 kilometers per hour. And when he reaches, 2 hours later, let me see, hold on one second. A cyclist passes the 66-kilometer mark while riding at a velocity of 36 kilometers per hour. Find the cyclist's average velocity during the first 2 hours of the race. Hold on one second. Let me turn this off. Okay, so let me see here. 2 hours after the start of a 100-kilometer bicycle race, a cyclist passes the 66-kilometer mark while riding at a velocity of 36 kilometers per hour. So it took him 2 hours. It took him 2 hours to reach the 66-kilometer mark, which means 66 divided by 2 is 33. So on average, during the first 2 hours, he is traveling 33 kilometers per hour. Okay, because it took him 2 hours to reach the 66-kilometer mark, which means he's covering, on average, 33 kilometers per hour. Part B, let f of x represent the distance traveled in kilometers from the start of the race, x is equal to 0, to time x in hours. Find the slope of the secant line through the points 0, f of 0, and 2, f of 2 on the graph of y is equal to f of x. Okay, so the secant line should have the same slope as the average velocity, which is 33 kilometers per hour. Part C, find the equation of the line tangent to the graph of y is equal to f of x at the point 2f of 2. Okay, so for this one, we need to remember that, oh, 1 second, sorry about that. What did I just do here? Okay, x is equal to 2. X is equal to 2. We know that y is equal to 66. And we know that the slope, m, is not equal to 33 because here it says in the problem that he's traveling at 36 kilometers per hour when he reaches that point. So m is actually going to be 36. We also know that y is equal to mx plus b. So we have 66 is equal to 36 times 2, 36 times 2 plus b. So what is b? Well, first of all, what is 36 times 2? 36 times 2 is 72. So b is going to be 66 minus 72. 66 minus 72, which is going to be minus 6. So then the equation of the line is simply going to be y is equal to 36x minus 6. Y is equal to 36x minus 6. Your input is correct. Score 100%. Okay. So you have a lot of these questions. You just have to use some common sense. You have to read the question carefully, and hopefully you've read your book. If you've read your book, then you should understand how to do these problems. Okay? Let's look at the next question. For f of x is equal to 1 over 2 plus x squared, the slope of the graph of y is equal to f of x is known to be negative 1 over 9 at the point with x coordinate 2. Find the equation of the tangent line at that point. Okay, so here y is equal to 1, control divide by 2 plus x squared. And we know that x is replaced with 2. So y is 1 over 6. And we know that x is equal to 2. And we know that the slope m is equal to negative 1 over 9. Let's use a little Mathematica to figure this out. Solve. Y is equal to, notice the double equal symbol, m times x plus b. What is b? B is 7 over 18. B is 7 over 18. The equation of the tangent line is therefore y is equal to negative 1 over 9 times x plus 7 over 18. Check answer. Your input is correct. Score 100% for this question. Okay, now that I'm done with this question, I need to clear those variables. Clear x, y, and m. So now x is just a symbol, y is just a symbol, m is just a symbol. And if I don't clear those values, they are no longer symbols, they are numbers. So for example, x is equal to 1, y is equal to 2, m is equal to 3. These are now numbers, not symbols. What is the head of x? An integer. What is the head of y? An integer. What is the head of m? An integer. I want to clear those values. Now those are symbols. Now those are just regular algebraic symbols. Okay? Just want to check one thing over here. Style, oops. Wait a minute. Edit style sheet. Let me make sure that's really bold. Okay, there we go. That looks a little better. Okay. Let's move on to question number 5. Okay, so this is very similar. I'm going to have to write. I don't want to really do this problem for this video, guys. Let's move on and visit some of the problems at the end of the test. So a lot of these problems are very similar. So I'm just going to write. I have to write an answer because otherwise Pearson won't let me move forward to the next question. But I really don't want to solve this problem right now. Okay, let's look at problem number 6. Use the 4-step process to find f prime of x, and then find f prime of 1, f prime of 2, and f prime of 3. Okay, so this is going to be pretty simple. This we can use, well, we don't have to use Mathematica for this. This is a pretty straightforward problem. So for this problem, we have f of x is equal to 4 plus 3 times the square root of x. And I'm going to write that as x to the power 1/2, which we know is really the same thing as the square root of x. Okay? So the derivative, f prime of x, is equal to the sum of two derivatives, the derivative of 4 and the derivative of 3x to the 1/2. The derivative of 4 is 0, and the derivative of this part requires us to use the power rule. So 1 times 3 halves, 1 times 3 halves is simply 3 halves, times x to the power negative 1/2, and that's going to be the same thing as 3 divided by 2 times the square root of x. So this is your derivative right over here. Okay, we should write that down. Well, hold on 1 second. Okay, so that's going to be 3 divided by 2 times the square root. That wasn't very good. Let's do that again. 3 divided by 2 times the square root of x. Okay. So that's going to be, well, now be careful. No, I think Pearson is sometimes weird because it won't always accept square roots or radicals in the denominator. In this case, though, it should be okay, but let's see what happens. So 3 divided by 2 times the square root of x. So what happens when x is equal to 1? We just have 3 over 2. What happens when we have 2? Okay, well, that's going to be 3 divided by 2 times the square root of 2. I'm not sure if Pearson really wants that square root in the denominator. So what we can do is multiply the numerator and denominator by the square root of 2. So the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is just 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. So in the denominator, you'll have 4, and then in the numerator up here, you would have square root of 2. And then over here, for f prime of 3, you would have 3 divided by 2 times the square root of 3, but you can simplify that because 3 is equal to the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. So what you really end up with then is the square root of 3 in the numerator, okay, divided by 2. Let's see if this is correct. Your input is correct, score 100%. That's problem number 6. Okay. Let's take a look at some of the other problems. The issue with Pearson, though, it won't let me go to the end of the test unless I fill in answers for all the questions along the way. So I'm just going to put in, nonsense answers so that I can get to problems that are later on, that appear later on in your test. Okay, so I'm just going to put in, here. So, are you sure you want to leave this question? Yes. For God's sakes, you cannot navigate to a different question in save for later mode without first attempting the current question. So I'm just going to put in nonsense answers. 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay. And okay, just put in, I'm going to write nonsense because I don't want to work on this problem right now. Let's look at number 8. The total sales of a company in millions of dollars T months from now are given by the following formula. S of t is equal to 9 times the square root of t plus 10. Use the 4-step process to find the derivative, s prime of t. Find s of 15 and s prime of 15. Use the results in part B to estimate the total sales after 16 months and 17 months. Okay, so that looks like a fun problem. Oops. Okay. There we go. Okay, let's read the problem one more time. The total sales of a company in millions of dollars t months from now are given by the following formula. S of t is equal to 9 times the square root of t plus 10. And the function is called s, probably because s stands for sales, and that's in millions of dollars. Okay. So how do we figure out the derivative for 9 times the square root of t plus 10? We can cheat a little bit. We can use Mathematica to make the job easier. Okay. S of t is equal to 9 times control 2. Control 2 gives me the radical symbol or the square root symbol, t plus 10. Shift enter. Okay. So what is the derivative? The derivative of s of t with respect to t is simply going to be, here, let's make this look a little more traditional form. That's going to be 9 divided by 2 times the square root of t plus 10. Okay. And what happens when s is equal to 15? Let's see. S of 15 is equal to 45. Okay, 45. What is s prime of 15? The derivative of s of t with respect to t when t is 15, that's going to be 9/10, which is 0.9. And what about s of 16? What is s of 16? Type an integer or a decimal. So let's see. 9 times the square root of 26. It's about 45.89. 45.89. Excuse me. And S of 17, hold on a second. What is S of 17? Let's turn that into a floating point number. And that's about 46.77. Pearson usually tells us how many decimal places of precision they want. So that's a little bit unusual that they don't explain that for this particular question. Let's see how we did. Okay, your input is incorrect. Score 60%. So yeah, something here is a little off. I'm not exactly sure. You know what? I have a feeling it doesn't. I have a feeling that Pearson doesn't like my answers for these questions right over here. S prime of t is correct. S of 15 is correct. S prime of 15 is correct. I think it's giving me issues. It's giving me issues. It doesn't like these answers right here. Okay, C, use the results in part B to estimate the total sales after 16 months and 17 months. Okay, it doesn't like my answers for part C. It doesn't like my answers for part C because I didn't use my answer to part B to figure out the answer to part C. So, okay, I think I understand. S prime of 15, so S of 15, okay, I think I see what they're talking about. S of 15 is $45 million. So I'm predicting that in 15 months, my company will have reached, $45 million in sales, but the rate of change is 0.9, which means 45 plus 0.9. So right over here, that should be a 0. 45.09. And then for S of 17, it would be 45 plus 0.9 plus 0.9. And that's 46.8. Okay, so now my answer is up to 80%. This question's a little vague, but let's see. Okay, so I know S prime of t is correct. S of 15 is correct. S prime of 15 is definitely correct. Use this information. Okay, hold on 1 second. Use this information, use the results in part B to estimate the total sales after 16 months and 17 months. So after 16 months, I would expect to have an increase of 0.09. And then after 17 months, which is 2 months after 15, t is equal to 15, I would expect another 0.9 increase. So this part should be correct. This part should be correct. I'm curious to see what they're expecting as an answer. I have a feeling they don't like my answer to this part right over here. Although I believe this part is correct. Let me think for a moment on what they want. So I am predicting that in two steps, for each step there's a change of 0.09. So that's a linear increase. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to submit this and see what Pearson has as the final answer right over here. Yeah, I know I haven't completed a bunch of questions, and that's okay. So for question 8, oh, that was just a little mistake on my part, of course. Yeah, sorry about that. So, oh, no. Wait one moment. So here, you answered 45.09, of course. That's 45.9. That was just a silly mistake on my part, because if you have 45 plus 0.9, the answer is 45.9. So that was just a mistake on my part. The answer, of course, is 45.9, not 45.09. So that was a silly mistake. And then here, of course, this answer is correct because we have 45 plus 0.9 plus 0.9. So that's going to be 46.8. So yeah, this was just a mistake. I wrote, what I wrote was 45.09. I don't know why I did that. The answer is, of course, 45.9, because here I can see that 45 plus 0.9, for some reason I just put in that 0 there. It's not 45.09, it's 45.9. So of course this is not correct. You know, the correct answer is 45.9. That, of course, is the correct answer. Okay. Okay, so let me see if we're able to open up that test again. Actually, I think this video has gotten long enough already. I will try to create a second video to demonstrate some of the other problems in the test, and I will do that sometime tomorrow. So this is Tuesday, November 3rd, Election Day. So Wednesday, November 4th, I will try to make another video that will demonstrate solving problems that are later on in the test. Okay? But I do have to get going, so I think this video is long enough already. Okay? Watch the video, study your book, work on the homework. You have 2 attempts on the quiz, so if you fail the quiz the first time, you can retake it. You have 2 attempts on the test. If you fail the test the first time, you can retake it. So you have plenty of options. And you should be using Mathematica, because if you use Mathematica, this course is going to be much easier for you. Okay? That's it for now. Take care. And I look forward to communicating with you in the future. All my best.